Today we are going to study molecular orbital. Just as atom has atomic orbital, molecule has molecular orbital. For example, HCl has molecular orbital, which looks like this. But the crucial difference between atomic orbital and molecular orbital is that for molecular orbital, the molecular orbital energy level depends on the internuclear distance r. When r increase, some molecular orbital energy decrease, some molecular orbital may increase. So molecular orbital energy level depends on r. This is the most important difference between atomic orbital and molecular orbital. And with this molecular orbital, we can distribute electrons here. And with this molecular orbital and electronic configuration, we can draw potential energy curve which looks like this. Here, x-axis represents the internuclear distance r, y-axis represents the total energy of the electrons. So with this molecular orbital energy level and with this electronic configuration, we can plot the potential energy curve which looks like this. The potential energy curve definitely depends on internuclear distance r because the molecular orbital energy depends on r. So this is the potential energy curve for corresponding electronic configuration. But sometimes the electron may be promoted, excited to another orbital energy. Then the configuration changed. So for this configuration, we can plot another potential energy curve, which is higher than previous potential energy curve. In this way, we can construct infinite number of potential energy curve. So anyway, with this configuration, we can construct potential energy curve. With this potential energy curve, we can define equilibrium bond length Ra, which refers to the distance at the potential energy minimum. This is the definition of bond length. And we also define bond dissociation energy, dE, which is the well depth from potential minimum to the bond dissociation limit. But as you know, according to quantum mechanics, the molecule cannot sit at the very bottom of the potential well, according to quantum mechanics, due to uncertainty principle. According to quantum mechanics, the molecule has 0 point energy. This is the minimum energy the molecule can have. So actual dissociation energy is not dE, actually dO is the actual dissociation energy. Today we are focused on this energy. This is called molecular orbital. In chapter 6, we are going to study this orbital, which is called molecular orbital. As I said before, the molecular orbital actually depends on r. This is the main focus of today's topic. So, the simplest atom is hydrogen, and simplest molecule is H2+. H2+ is consists of 3 particles, 2 protons, and 1 electrons. To describe this H2+, the wave function has following form. These 3 coordinates refer to the coordinate of electron, and these 6 coordinates refers to the coordinate of nucleus. For simplicity, I'm gonna denote small r as representing the coordinate of electrons, and I'm gonna denote large r as representing the coordinate of two nuclei. So for simplicity, I'm going to express psi as small r and large r. The small r represents the coordinate of electron. Large r represents the coordinate of two nucleus. So this is the wave function for H2 plus. So as usual, I'm gonna express this wave function as a product of simple two separate functions. This function concerned about nuclear motion. This function concerned about electronic motion. So this function concerned about, because this function is concerned about nuclear motion, it depends on nuclear coordinate large r, and this function concerned about electron, so it depends on small r, and it depends on r, small r, large r parametrically. As I said before, today we are going to study this function. This is our today's topic. This is a molecular orbital. The molecular orbital depends on large r. This function is this one. This is our today's topic. This molecular orbital depends on large r parametrically. This is a variable. This is not variable. This is a parameter. This molecular orbital depends on large r. Large r means the internuclear distance parametrically. This is our today's topic. To understand physical meaning of this formula, I'll take a scale of this wave function. When you take a scale of this wave function, as you know, when the wave function scale, it gives a probability. What's the meaning of this one? This is the probability that probability of finding electron found at position small r, and the nucleus found at large r. Now, this is the probability that nucleus are found at large r. Now, this one is conditional probability. This gives the probability of finding electron at found small r given nucleus at r. This is the conditional probability. This kind of expression you may find in probability theory. In probability theory, in statistical course, you may find this formula. This is conditional probability. According to probability theory, this is the probability event A and event B occurring simultaneously is equal to product of the function. This is the probability B occurring. What is this one? This is the probability A occurring given B, right? This structure is very similar to this one, okay? This one corresponds to this one. So I want to say that this is a conditional probability, which means that probability A occurring given B. This is the same. This is the probability electron found at small r given that nucleus at r. this is the molecular orbital. Okay. So this is the meaning of the wave function. But be careful that when you express this function as a simple product of this function, is an approximation. This is actually approximation. Because this small r represents the coordinate of electron. This is a coordinate of nucleus. But electron and nucleus are not independent because electron and nucleus are interact with each other through electrostatic force. There are interaction between electron and nucleus through Coulomb interaction. These two variables are not independent. They depend on each other through Coulomb interaction. So this function cannot be expressed as simple product of two functions. So expression this function as product of two functions is just an expression, the approximation. This approximation are suggested by von Oppenheimer. But this approximation is very successful because this approximation is valid, useful, because the mass of electron are very, very small compared to mass of nucleus. It means that electrons move much faster than the nucleus. This approximation is valid or useful because nucleus moves much, much slower than electrons. This fact supports this approximation. So I'm going to explain why the fact that nucleus moves much, much smaller than electron supports this approximation. Now I'm going to explain the particle in a one-dimensional box. As you know, this is one-dimensional box. Here, electron between the box. This situation, here, the length of box is L. This situation is very similar to H2 plus molecule. In H2 plus molecule, here, two nucleus is left on right, and electrons is between the two nuclei. The internuclear distance is r. So this situation very similar to each other. In particle in a two-dimensional box, there are walls on left side and right side. In H2 plus molecule, electrons are between two nucleus. The internuclear distance is large r. The distance between two walls L. As I said before, the molecular orbital here are expressed as using this form. For particle in a box, the wave function has this form. As you know, the wave function for particle in a two-dimensional box looks like this. This is the wave function for particle in a two-dimensional box. It depends on L. L is parameter. The wave function depends on large L. It has parameter L. Okay. Similarly, the wave function of electron in H2 plus molecule, it has parameter large L. It has very, very similar situation. And energy also depends on L. As you know, the energy of particle in one-dimensional box is n square h square. Energy of the orbital depends on L. Similarly, for hydrogen molecule, energy depends on large R. Very, very similar situation. Anyway, for one-dimensional particle in a box, you know n equal 1 with waveform looks like this, right? This is the L. Now I'm going to increase length of L to 2L. So here length is now 2L. I'm going to increase the length of box L to 2L. Then the wave function, how looks like the wave function? N equal 1. It looks like this one. N equal 2. Looks like this one. For n equals 3, blah blah blah. Okay? This is the wave function for length L. This is the wave function for 2L. Okay? Now, assume that now electron is in a n equal 1 state. I'm gonna increase the length of box to L to 2L. So final state is this one. Now there are two ways to increase the box from L to 2L. There are two ways. First method is that slow. I'm going to increase the box slowly. And second method is fast. I'm going to increase the box slowly. Then the question is, what do you mean by slow? What do you mean by fast? What's the criteria for slow and fast? The benchmark, the criteria is the speed of electron. When the speed of electron is slower than the speed of box, it means slow. The criteria is the speed of electron compared to the speed of Wall. When the speed of Wall is slower than the electron, it means the slow. When the speed of Wall is fast than the electron, it means fast, right? The criteria is the speed of electron. Now I'm going to take this case, this scenario, when box moves slowly compared to the electron, then the electron follows the box. It has enough time to follow the words. So final state, when the box reaches the 2L, the wave function transforms to this one. So the final state looks like this one because electron has enough time to follow the wall. Because wall moves very very slowly compared to the electrons. So electron has enough time to follow the wall. So this function transforms to this one. Okay? So this is the initial state. This is the final state. When wall moves very very slowly. Slow process. Now what happens when the wall moves very very fast? Then what happens? Now when moves very fast to the 2L, electron doesn't have enough time to follow the wall. So final state looks like this. Final state looks like this. Right? Because electron has no time to adjust the wall. This is the initial state. This is the final state. When the wall moves very fast. When wall moves very slowly, it follows the wall. This is the final state. When wall moves slowly. When it moves fast, this is the final. Different, right? Now, when you try to measure the energy of the electron, what is the energy of the electron in this state? When the length of EL, the energy is equal to this is the formula when the length of box is equal to 2L. So when the electron is in this state, the energy is equal to this one. You can use this formula because when the electron is in this state, N is defined. N equal 1. So you can use this formula. Energy is this one, right? But problem is this one. What is the energy when the electron is in this state, right? In this state, N is not defined, right? This state is not N equal 1. This is not N equal 2. You cannot define N quantum number N, right? This is not eigenstate of this one. So then, when you try to measure the energy of this state, what is the result? But as I said before, when you solve Schrödinger equation, there are many solutions occurs. And as I said before repeatedly, the solution follows two important properties. First one is orthonormal. Second property is complete set. For complete set, what does that mean? For any arbitrary function, it can be expressed as a linear combination of this one. So in this case, this function is this one. This is a solution to Schrödinger equation, and this one corresponds to this function. So this function corresponds to this one, and this function can be expressed as a linear combination of this one. It means that this function cannot be defined, and quantum number cannot be defined, but this function can be expressed as a linear combination of this function. Okay, so this function is a mixture of this function. So when you measure this function is a sum of this function. So when you measure the energy, you get different result every time. Sometimes the result is the energy of this one. Sometimes you measure the energy of this one. You get different result every time because this is the sum of this function. So anyway, when the electron is in this state, energy is not defined. Okay, when walls moves fast. Okay, so conclusion is that when the wall moves very slowly, energy is defined, right? But wall moves fast, energy is not defined, right? But what's the criteria? The criteria is that the wall moves slowly compared to the electron, energy is defined. But when the wall moves slowly compared to the electron, energy is not defined. But in our case, this wall is what? In our case, wall is real molecule. This is nucleus. Nucleus is much heavier than electron. This one is 12,000 times heavier than electron. Nucleus moves much slower than electron. So in our molecular case, it follows this process. Nucleus moves much slower than electrons. It does not follow this process. It always follows this process. So in this case, molecule follows, we can always define energy, right? So in real molecule, this expression is valid because nucleus moves very, very slowly. We can define energy every time. So this approximation is valid for our molecular system. Okay, now, so we are going to use this approximation. So now we are going to focus on this molecular orbital. Now this is the molecular orbital. Now focus on this molecular orbital. And as you know, atomic orbital has name 1s, 2p, 3d, blah blah blah. Atomic orbital has name. Similarly, molecular orbital has also name, but it's very complicated. For molecular orbital has naming, it has 4 zones. This is the naming of molecular orbital. For example, 1, pi, star, Gerade, OPG. This is the example of molecular orbital. So it consists of 4 zones. So we are going to take an example of this molecular orbital. So as you know, the hydrogen atom are the only case Schrödinger equation is solved. So similarly, H2 plus is the only example Schrödinger equation is solved. So in our textbook, the molecular orbital is displayed. This is the only example molecular orbital is solved. So according to this textbook, molecular orbital name is displayed. So when you list the molecular orbital according to energy level, it is the ground state is 1 sigma g. This is the name of molecular orbital. This is the molecular orbital energy diagram for H2 plus. So we are going to take a look at this one. First, we are going to take a look at this one and this one and this one and this one. We are going to take these 2 molecular orbitals first, and then we are going to take a look at these 2 orbitals. So first, I'm going to take a look at 1 pi g star orbital and 1 pi u orbital. So when you take a look at this orbital diagram, 1 pi g star orbital and 1 pi u orbital looks like this. And 1 pi orbital looks like this. Two nucleus is here. Here. And first, this is the structure of the naming of the molecular orbital. First, in molecular naming of molecular orbital, here G O U comes here. G means the Gerade. U means Ungerade. Stands for Ungerade. Here, asterisk marks here or no marks maybe here. And here sigma pi etc. comes. And here atomic naming of atomic orbitals comes. So first I'm going to take a look at this part. Gerade, ungerade, and asterisk. Here, gerade, ungerade, asterisk or no mark. Now first, this orbital is gerade orbital. This orbital, ungerade orbital. Now, what's the difference of gerade and ungerade? As I said repeatedly, you know even parity. You may remember even parity and odd parity. When you perform an inversion through center, when the sign doesn't change, it is even parity. When the perform inversion through center of the molecule and it changes sign, it is called odd parity. It is simply in Korean OD. Okay. So this is the molecule. This is the center. This is the center. When you perform inversion through center of the molecule, minus sign goes to minus sign. Positive sign, when you perform an inversion through center, positive goes to positive. It does not change when you perform an inversion through the center. So this is called gerade function. It doesn't change sign through the inversion. But what happens? Positive sign goes to minus sign. Minus sign goes to positive sign. The change sign. So it function is called ungerade function. It is even odd parity. So now this function marked asterisk. There's a no mark. It is related to nodal plane. Nodal plane is defined as the wave function is 0. Now this is the nodal plane. But the nodal plane pass between the two nuclei. This is the nuclei. Nodal plane pass between two nuclei, right? When the nodal plane pass between two nuclei, it marked an asterisk. When the asterisk mark is appeared, this orbital is called anti-bonding orbital. But take a look at this orbital. This orbital has also nodal plane here. But this nodal plane does not pass between two nuclei. This nodal plane contains nuclei. Then this orbital is not anti-bonding orbital. The requirement that for this orbital to be anti-bonding orbital, the nodal plane pass between the two nuclei. So this orbital is anti-bonding orbital. But this orbital, even though it has nodal plane, this nodal plane does not pass between the two nuclei. So this orbital is not anti-bonding orbital. So this orbital is anti-bonding orbital, this orbital is bonding orbital. Now, why this is called anti-bonding orbital? You may remember that when I talk about covalent bonding, for covalent bonding to be formed, the electron must be concentrated in the middle, right? So when the electrons are concentrated in the middle, there are attractive interaction exists between the electron in the middle and the nucleus. There are attractive interaction exists. So the energy is stabilized. But what happens when the electrons are outside the nucleus? When the electrons are distributed like this, if there are no electrons between the two nucleus face each other, then there are repulsive interaction is increased. In this case, when the electrons are distributed like this, the repulsive energy increase. So in this case, bond cannot be formed. This kind of orbital is called anti-bonding orbital. So in anti-bonding orbital, there are no electrons between the two nuclei. This orbital corresponds to this one. In this orbital, there are no electrons between the two nuclei. So this orbital corresponds to this one. So this orbital called anti-bonding orbital. But in bonding orbital, the electrons accumulated in the between the region. This orbital, electrons are accumulated between the two nuclei. So this orbital is called a bonding orbital. So when the nodal plane between the two nuclei, we mark the asterisk, and this orbital is called anti-bonding orbital. I'm gonna take another example. This orbital, 3 sigma g orbital and 3 sigma u star orbital. Another example. Three sigma u star orbital. So this is the 3 sigma u star orbital. This is 3 sigma g orbital. Now first, this is ungerade orbital because this is the center. When you perform inversion through the center, minus goes to plus, positive. Negative goes to plus. So change sign. It changes sign. So this is ungerade orbital. But here, positive sign goes to positive. Minus goes to minus. It does not change sign. So this orbital is Gerade orbital. How about nodal plane? Here we have nodal plane. This nodal plane between the two nuclei. So this orbital are marked asterisk, which means this orbital is anti-bonding orbital. But for this orbital, electrons are accumulated between the two nuclei. Instead of nodal plane, between the two nuclei, electrons are accumulated instead of nodal plane. So this orbital is bonding orbital. Okay. Now this part here, Gerade, this orbital, sigma orbital, this orbital, pi orbital. Here, sigma or pi appears. Now, sigma pi are related to angular momentum. When we talk about atom, s orbital, p orbital, d orbital, blah 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 blah. This letter spt are related to angular momentum. Specifically, these spt are related to magnitude of angular momentum, right? When you know the p orbital, the angular momentum quantum number L is related to. So in atom, this spt are related to the magnitude of angular momentum because it is related to quantum number L, right? But in this case, for molecule, this one is related to angular momentum, G component of angular momentum, not L. So for sigma orbital, G component of angular momentum is 0. Then this orbital is called sigma orbital. For pi orbital, angular momentum of G component is plus minus h. Then it is called pi orbital. Now there are important points. In atom, we can define L and Ml. Both L and Ml can be defined in atom. L is related to magnitude of angular momentum, and ml is related to g component of angular momentum. In short, in atom, we can define the magnitude of angular momentum and direction of angular momentum. Both of them can be defined in atom. But in molecule, we can only define angular momentum g component. We cannot define magnitude of angular momentum in molecule. There's a very profound meaning about this. In atom, we can define both magnitude and direction of angular momentum. But in molecule, we can only define g component of angular momentum. We cannot define magnitude of angular momentum. There's a profound meaning for this. Now, we are in a particular one-dimensional box here. Now, assume that there are no potential, error, no potential. Now, particles moves. As you know, when the particle moves, velocity does not change. When no potential, when velocity does not change, angular momentum is constant. It is another way of saying that momentum is conserved when potential is zero. But it remains true when the potential is constant. We also say that momentum is conserved. So we can say that when the potential is constant, another way of saying that potential is translationally symmetric. The potential energy does not change with respect to x. It means that another way of saying that translationally symmetric. The potential energy does not change with respect to x. This is another way of saying that translationally symmetric. Then linear momentum is conserved. It is not changing. Okay. Now what happens in atom? Nucleus is at the center. Electron moves around. Now electrons experience potential energy due to experience Coulomb potential energy. Now the electrons potential energy is spherically symmetric. Now, in this case, this particle is translationally symmetric, then linear momentum is conserved. But in this case, in atom, the potential is spherically symmetric. Then what momentum is conserved? The answer is angular momentum is conserved. You can mathematically prove that when the potential is spherically symmetric, image just like atom, angular momentum is conserved. So we can define angular momentum. The angular momentum is a vector. So the magnitude of angular momentum and direction of angular momentum is conserved. It does not change. So we can define magnitude of angular momentum and direction of angular momentum can be defined. So we can define angular momentum number, quantum number. This one can be defined because angular momentum is conserved. Why angular momentum is conserved? Because potential energy is spherically symmetric. Now, this is atom. Now, how about diatomic molecule? In diatomic molecule, another nucleus is on the G nucleus. This is the diatomic molecule. Then now, the potential is not spherically symmetric, right? Then now, angular momentum is not conserved any longer, right? So we cannot define angular momentum quantum number any longer, right? But there still remains symmetry. What symmetry remains? The potential energy still does not change with respect to rotation about g-axis because the nucleus is aligned on the g-axis. When you rotate the coordinate system about rotation about g-axis, the potential energy does not change. There are symmetry about the rotation about g-axis. The symmetry still arrived. So in this case, even though angular momentum is not conserved, angular momentum g component is conserved. Right? So in this system, this one is conserved. So we can define angular momentum g component. So diatomic molecule, we can say angular momentum g component only. We can only say that angular momentum g component. So in diatomic molecule, we can say that sigma pi blah blah blah. Sigma means that angular momentum g component is 0. For pi orbital, angular momentum g component is plus or minus h bar. Then what is the meaning of plus or minus? This one is there. For plus sign, the electron moves around g-axis counterclockwise, and some electrons clockwise. Some electrons rotate about g-axis counterclockwise. Some electrons rotate about g-axis clockwise. But the two electrons have same energy. So always they appears in pairs. So we have pi electrons have pairs. Some electrons rotate clockwise. Some electrons rotate counterclockwise. Two states have same energy. But sigma orbital, there are only one state because there are no spin, there are no rotation. Okay, now move on to this part. This one appears atomic orbital. When you talk about molecular orbital, here atomic orbital appears. This is very important. Now, this is the molecular orbital. But as I said before, repeatedly, molecular orbital depends on R, which is the distance between two nuclei. As I said repeatedly, in molecular orbital, when R changes, the energy level of the molecular orbital and the shape of molecular orbital change, right? It depends on large R, which is the distance between two nuclei. Now, I'm going to let R go infinity. When R go infinity, what happens to the shape of this molecular orbital? This is the question. But when R go infinity, actually this is not molecule anymore. When R go to infinity, it is just atom. So this molecular orbital transform to atomic orbital when R go to infinity. Now, when this molecular orbital, when R go to infinity, this molecular orbital transform to this one. When R go to infinity, this molecular orbital transform to this orbital. Now I'm gonna assign, this is g-axis, this is x-axis, so this is x-axis. So for 1 pi just orbital, when I go to infinity, you obtain 2 px orbital appears. Similarly, when 1 pi orbital, when I go to infinity, you obtain 2 px orbital. Same 2 px orbital appears. But there are big difference between 1 pi distal orbital and 1 pi u orbital. For 1 pi u orbital, 2 px orbital has same sign, plus, right? But for this orbital, opposite sign, minus plus, right? Why? Because in one pi-just orbital, there are nodal plane exist, right? So for the nodal plane physically exist, the sign must be different, right? For the nodal plane exist. So one pi-just orbital, the sign must be opposite. For the bonding orbital, the sign must be same, right? So I'm going to approximate this anti-bonding orbital as this one is called A proton, B proton, A proton, B proton. So I'm going to approximate this orbital as 2px minus 2pxb. I'm going to approximate this orbital as 2pxb, 2px, A, 2pxb. I'm going to approximate this to orbital. Sign is different. Okay. Now, what happens to this orbital? I'm going to let I go to infinity. Then, what happens to this orbital? For this orbital, this is g-axis. When I go to infinity, you obtain two pg orbital. Both of them, when I go to infinity, you obtain two pg orbital, right? As I said before, there's a nodal plane for 3 sigma used orbital. So you have opposite sign. This is the same sign. So I'm going to approximate this orbital as PGA minus PGB. I'm going to approximate this orbital as PGB. Okay. But I keep in mind that you might be misleading that for bonding orbital, I'm going to add 2 orbital. For anti-bonding orbital, I'm going to minus sign. But this is wrong. The sign does not matter because the sign depends on the axis. What does that mean? For this orbital, I'm going to choose g-axis like this. I'm going to choose g-axis like this. Then this orbital is 2pga, but when this orbital is minus 2pgb, when I define g-axis for right orbital, I'm going to define g-axis in this direction. The orbital is minus 2pgb, right? But if I define g-axis on the right side, like this, then the orbital is plus 2pgb. So the sign depends on the choice you choose. The sign depends on which axis you choose. So sign does not matter. It depends on the choice axis you choose. So sign does not matter. The important point is that the two orbitals interfere constructively or destructively. If two orbitals interfere destructively, opposite sign, it leads to anti-bonding orbital. If the two orbitals constructively interfere, then it leads to bonding orbital. Okay? Sign does not matter. Constructive interference leads to bonding orbital. Destructive interference leads to anti-bonding orbital. This matter. So anyway, in this way, we can now construct molecular orbital. When the atoms are far apart, there are two independent atomic orbitals. When they get closer, they interact to interact with each other to construct molecular orbital. So they may interact constructively. They lead to bonding orbital. When they destructively interfere, they lead to anti-bonding orbital. This is the main result. So to construct molecular orbital, we are going to use this approximation to construct molecular orbital. You are going to use this approximation. This approximation stands for linear combination of atomic orbital to construct molecular orbital. The formula looks like this. Blah blah blah. To construct molecular orbital, we are going to use atomic orbital as linear combination. So as I said before, to construct molecular orbital, we are going to use atomic orbital. This is the another name of LCAO. So in the following process, we are going to construct molecular orbital using atomic orbital. I'm going to explain this term more mathematical construction terms. As I said repeatedly, when you solve Schrödinger equation, the solution forms a set, and this set satisfies two important properties. First property is orthonormal property. Second property is complete set. For second property, arbitrary function can be expressed as a linear combination of the solution. For LCAO context, this arbitrary function is a molecular orbital. This is a molecular orbital. And this function is a atomic orbital. So using atomic orbital is a solution to Schrödinger equation. So using atomic orbital, we can construct molecular orbital. In mathematical term, the expressing some function as an infinite set is common. For example, exponential x to x can be expressed as like this. So this function can be expressed as a linear combination of this function. But this approximation is useful because in many cases you can ignore higher order term. Only two terms are enough to approximate this function. So this approximation is very, very useful. Similarly, for construct molecular orbital, add more terms, get closer to a true molecular orbital. If you add more terms, you get closer to a true molecular function. But in many cases, if you ignore higher order term and only two terms get satisfying result, right? Only two terms is enough to approximate molecular orbital, right? As I said, to construct 3 sigma orbital, we only use two terms, right? Similarly, to construct, you can only use two terms. But sometimes we need to add more terms. Sometimes. This is the N2 case. Tomorrow we are going to talk about construct N2 molecular orbital. In this case, two terms is not enough. We are going to use four terms to construct N2 molecular orbital. Anyway, this is our case. Okay. Okay, now, so to use LCAO method, we are going to use atomic orbital. Now, the second question is, the constant molecular orbital, we are going to use atomic orbital. Now, second question is, then, what atomic orbital use? Okay, LCAO just means that we are going to use atomic orbital. Second question is, specifically, what atomic orbital we are going to use? Real question. According to variation method, the atomic orbital must have to construct molecular orbital, the atomic orbital, the energy of atomic orbital must be comparable. Similar energy must be similar to construct molecular orbital. And second requirement is that overlap, which is called S, is significant. Overlap is defined as following. Simply multiply two orbital and integrate. This is the definition of overlap. This must be significant to construct molecular orbital. To construct molecular orbital, in another way of saying is that if to construct molecular orbital, two orbital, atomic orbital, the energy of two atomic orbital must be comparable. First requirement. Second requirement is that the overlap integral of two atomic orbital must be significant. This is the two requirements to construct molecular orbital. With this requirement, I'm gonna construct molecular orbital. And for simple case, I'm gonna construct lowest to this orbital. And first, I'm gonna construct these two orbital. One sigma g orbital, one sigma star orbital. And around this molecular orbital energy level, we have one SA orbital and one SB orbital. So I'm going to use one SA orbital and one SB orbital to construct one sigma g orbital and one sigma u star orbital. So here one SA orbital and one SB orbital. So when the atoms are far apart, there are two independent s orbital, one SA orbital, one SB orbital, and they get closer to form a molecular orbital. They interact with each other. They interfere constructively to form a bonding orbital. It is approximately 1 SA plus 1 SB leads to 1 sigma g orbital. And these two atomic orbitals interfere destructively to form a anti-bonding orbital, which is 1 SA minus 1 SB. This leads to 1 sigma u star orbital. So this is the molecular orbital. This is the MO diagram of H2. So H2 has two valence electrons. So two electrons goes to occupy bonding orbital. Now, why the bonding orbital energy level is lower than the atomic energy level? Because as I said before, the molecular orbital, bonding orbital, are concentrated here. The shape of bonding orbital, the electrons are concentrated in the middle. So the attractive energy is increased. So the energy level is lower compared to the atomic energy level. So this is the MO diagram. Now, with this simple construction, we can predict many important properties. First, I'm going to compare ionization energy of H2 molecule with the ionization energy of hydrogen atom. Now, this is a vacuum state. Vacuum state refers to the state in which electrons are removed from the nucleus. This is a vacuum state, ionization state. So, with this energy level, I can compare the two ionization energy. Which one is larger than the other? In this case, electrons are removed from the bonding orbital. So, ionization energy of hydrogen molecule is this one. But for hydrogen atom, electron is here. So, ionization energy of hydrogen is here. This is ionization energy of molecule. As I said before, bonding orbital is lower than the atomic orbital. So, in this case, this is larger than this one. Now, I'm going to compare bond length of H2 with bond length of H2 plus. Bond length reflects the bond strength of the bond. When the bond strength increases, two atoms attract more strongly than the bond length decrease. So bond length reflects the bond strength. Now, which bond is stronger than the other? In H2 molecule, two electrons occupy bonding orbital. But in H2 plus, only one electron occupies bonding orbital. Then, which bond is stronger? Then, H2 bond is more stronger because two electrons enters the bonding orbital. So this bond is stronger. When the bond stronger, then bond length decrease. So bond length is shorter than this one. Now, helium dimer. You know, helium dimer does not exist. Why? Helium is noble gas. So helium dimer does not exist. We know that. Then how do you explain helium dimer exists? How do you prove that helium dimer does not exist theoretically? According to molecular orbital diagram, helium dimer have 4 valence electrons. 2 electrons enters bonding orbital. Remaining 2 electrons enters anti-bonding orbital. So this anti-bonding orbital cancels out the stability of bonding electrons. So it cancels out stability of the bonding electrons. So helium dimer does not exist. So we are going to define bond order to make a rough estimate of bond strength. So we can define bond order, make a rough estimate of bond strength. To bond order, when the electron in the bonding electron, we can assign plus 1/2. Bonding orbital we assign plus 1 for electron in anti-bonding orbital. We assign minus 1/2. Then, what is the bond order of H2? Bond order over H2. It is 1 because 2 electrons are in the bonding orbital. What is the bond order of H2 plus? It is 1/2. Because only 1 electron is in the bonding orbital. So H2 is stronger bond than H2 plus. Then what is the bond order of helium dimer? It is 0. So we can explain following experimental fact using bond order approach. Okay, now let's move on to this one. Then how do you construct 2 sigma u and 2 sigma c? Here around this orbital, we have 2sb orbital and 2sa orbital. So to construct 2s sigma u, 2 sigma g orbital, we are going to use a similar logic. 2sa, 2sb constructive interfere to lead 2 sigma g orbital, destructive construct interfere 2 sigma u orbital. Similar logic. Now, here we have 3p orbital. 3 2p orbitals, 3 2p orbitals interact with each other to construct 6 molecular orbital. Here, 2pGA, 2pGB, 2pXB, 2pXYB. As I said before, what is the requirement for the two atomic orbitals interact with each other to construct molecular orbital? First requirement is energy must be comparable, must be similar. Second requirement, overlap integral must be significant. But in this case, the orbital energy is the same. So first requirement is already satisfied. So we are going to check overlap integral is significant. Now I'm going to determine, here we have 2pGA orbital. What orbital interact with 2pGA orbital? We are going to determine overlap integral is significant or not. So here G orbital, 2pG orbital looks like this. Now I'm going to check with the overlap integral with 2px with 2pG orbital. This is 2pGA orbital. This is a 2pxB orbital. The definition of overlap integral is 2pG A times 2pxB and dx dy dz. This is the definition of overlap integral. Now, first you must multiply two functions and then integral over sum. Then what is the sign of this region? The positive sign, when you multiply, the sign is positive. What's the sign of this region? Positive sign multiply negative sign is negative. So when you sum these two regions, positive cancels out negative sign. So when you sum these two regions, it perfectly cancels out. So when you integrate this function, it is perfectly zero. So overlap integral between 2pGA orbital with 2px orbital is perfectly zero. It means that this 2pGA orbital cannot interact with 2px orbital. Similar logic applies to 2py orbital. 2py orbital is just perpendicular to this both. So 2pGA orbital cannot interact with 2py orbital. So 2pGA orbital cannot interact with 2pxb, 2py orbital. It only interacts with 2pg orbital. So 2pg only interacts with 2pg orbital. So this body orbital looks like this. It interferes constructively. What it looks like the antibody orbital? Nodal plane develops between two nuclei. Bonding develops between two nuclei. Now 2pxa interacts with 2pxb. So it forms bonding orbital and anti-bonding orbital. What it looks like? Plus minus. This is the bonding orbital that comes from interaction with 2pxa, 2pxb. What about anti-bonding orbital? Plus minus minus. Nodal plane develops. And 2py. 2py interacts with similar fashion. Plus minus. Nodal plane develop. This is the construction from the interaction between 2p orbital. So one question remains. This is the bonding orbital which comes from interaction between 2pg orbital. This is the bonding orbital which comes from interaction between 2pxy, 2pxy. But the bonding orbital, energy level of bonding orbital which comes from 2pg are lower than this pi orbital. Why? Why this orbital is lower than this orbital? It comes from the overlap integral. When you compare the overlap, the amount of overlap, this overlap is larger than this overlap. The p orbital has direction. Okay, this overlap is the head-to-head overlap, right? P orbital is in this direction. This overlap is head-to-head overlap. This overlap is face-to-face overlap, right? Head-to-head overlap is larger than the face-to-face overlap. So the bonding orbital is lower than face-to-face overlap is larger than the face-to-face overlap. So the bonding orbital is lower than the face-to-face overlap interaction. So this is lower than this one. So this is the energy level diagram that are constructed from the 2p orbital. So finally, here 2s orbital. So bonding orbital, anti-bonding orbital, 3p orbital, bonding, anti-bonding orbital. This is the construction we construct from bonding orbital. So I'm gonna construct O2 configuration. O2 has total of 12 electrons. I'm gonna distribute 12 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is electronic configuration for O2. This is the vacuum state. Now, what is the bond order of O2? Now, this one cancels this one. Now, bond order 1, 2, 3. This one is anti-bonding, so -1. So bond order of O2 is 2. But when you draw Lewis diagram, so when you draw Lewis diagram, the bond order of 2. So the bond order is perfectly agree with Lewis diagram. Okay. Now, what is the magnetic property of the O2? When you look at the MO diagram, you can see two unpaired electron appears. So the paramagnetic. But according to Lewis diagram, the magnetic property must be diamagnetic because all the electrons are paired. So according to Lewis diagram, diamagnetic. But when you look at the MO diagram, paramagnetic. But according to experimental observation, O2 is paramagnetic. It is very excellent. The MO diagram can successfully explain the experimental observation. Okay. Now I'm going to compare ionization energy which one is larger than the other. In this case, atomic ionization energy is larger than the molecular ionization. Why? In this case, the electron removed from the anti-bonding orbital. In hydrogen case, do you remember? In hydrogen case, molecular ionization is larger than the atomic. Why? In this case, bonding orbital, electron in bonding orbital is removed. But in this case, electron in the anti-bonding orbital is removed. So it is reversed. Okay. Finally, I'm going to compare bond length of O2 with bond length of O2 plus. Which one is shorter? The bond order of O2 is 2. What is the bond order of O2 plus? In this case, the electron in the anti-bonding orbital is removed. So bond order increase when the electron is removed. So this one is stronger bond. So in this case, O2 plus bond length is shorter. Okay. So in this way, very important experimental observation can be successfully explained. Now, this is the orbital energy diagram of O2. Tomorrow, I'm going to explain orbital energy diagram of N2. The orbital energy diagram of N2 is different from O2. For N2, two difference appears. 2s This is the O2 energy level diagram. This is N2 energy level diagram. Can you notice two difference? First difference is that this one. In this case, sigma orbitals appears first. But in this case, pi orbitals appears first. It is reversed. First difference. Second difference, in this case, it is almost symmetric, right? In this case, it is not symmetric. It is shorter, it is longer, okay? So there is a big difference between O2 and N2. You may remember that. What's the difference caused? I just said before, in photoelectron spectroscopy, we can measure the orbital energy using photoelectron spectroscopy. The 2s orbital energy level looks like this. But 2p orbital energy level looks like this. This is oxygen. This is nitrogen. So keep in mind that here, for oxygen, the energy gap between 2p and 2s is large. But nitrogen, 2s and 2p energy gap is very, very small, right? What this one is so important? This fact is so important. As I said before, for the two atomic orbitals to interact, two requirements must be satisfied. Energy must be comparable. This is the first requirement, right? But in here, for oxygen, 2s is here, 2p is here. for oxygen. In oxygen, 2s and 2p is very large. Gap is very large. So we can construct molecular orbital. 2s only interacts with 2s. Because 2s orbital and 2p orbital, the energy gap is very, very different. So you can only construct molecular orbital using only 2s. We can only construct molecular orbital only 2s. This is right, because the energy gap between 2s and 2p is very large. But for N2, 2p is here. Now 2s orbital and 2p orbital is very close. Now 2s orbital interacts with 2s orbital and 2p orbital. This orbital can interact with each other. So as I said before, normally molecular orbitals are expressed as linear combination of atomic orbital. Normally, only two terms are enough to express molecular orbital. For O2, we only need two orbitals, but in sometimes two terms are not enough. We need more terms. This is the nitrogen case. We need 4 terms are needed. In normally, to construct this orbital, only 2s term is enough for oxygen. But nitrogen, to construct molecular orbital, this term is needed. This term 2p orbital is needed to construct molecular orbital. So tomorrow we are going to use this one. Okay, do you have answer? Then see you tomorrow.